Good morning and welcome to One Lonely Farmer. I'm going to put this out here on One Lonely Farmer. So I've gotten many people asking me what my thoughts are on what's going on in the world with tariffs and the stock market and all that other stuff. And I've been pretty much saying, I'm not getting in the middle of it. You know, my opinion doesn't matter anyway. But you know what? I'm not generally one to just shut my mouth and, not discuss the topics of what's going on in the world. Now, we're going to do a little history lesson before we go into what we're going to talk about, and that is the tariffs and the nuclear bomb that Donald Trump dropped on the world, known as reciprocal tariffs. So let's go back to 1945, 46, 47. The world was tore up from a world war. From North Africa to Southeast Asia, China, Europe, all tore up. The United States was not tore up. We actually ramped up production of steel, automobiles, weapons of war, ammunition, housing then became a big thing, because the soldiers coming back from the war, they needed to, the survivors, they needed a place to live. Levittown, New York, New Jersey, I think there's one in New Jersey, definitely Pennsylvania. And so Levittowns started popping up. Those were for the soldiers that were coming back. They were little towns that were built, little cookie cutter houses. So 45, 46, 47, maybe even into 48. I can't remember the final date of it. But there was this thing called the Marshall Plan, right? So I don't remember his first name, but his last name was Marshall. I don't want to say Edward Marshall because he was the walking purchase. But anyways, the Marshall Plan was implemented. And that is where part of this was that we'll give you money. We'll give you money to rebuild your country, loan you money or give you money to rebuild your countries. You have to hire American engineers and builders to construct your new country, rebuild your country. There's a lot of that went on. There were some takers and there were some, of course there was a lot of takers, but there were some that rejected the Marshall Plan, but eventually implemented it later on. And that's where the tariffs come in that were levied against the United States, because we were a manufacturing superpower. Okay, and we were. But this gave the other countries a chance to tariff us because we were producing a lot of goods and things were cheap and reasonable from here, but they would tariff us and then take that money and rebuild their countries with it. Now that should have lasted until about the mid-50s, but it didn't. It just kept on going until today, where we are right now. I've been to some of the countries that have been ravaged by war. England was one of them. They didn't take much on the Marshall Plan. I don't think they took anything. But I've been to France and I've been to Belgium and I've been to Japan, and they were all rebuilt by the Marshall Plan. I have friends that went to Germany and Austria. They were participants in the Marshall Plan as well. So they took American money, and we got them all back on their feet, running well. The thing that happened afterwards was that stupid politicians didn't say, okay, you guys are doing good. Time to cut the umbilical cord. Time to wean you off the tit. And they never did. And they've been on our tits, sucking away, hanging onto that umbilical cord, flooding our country with cheap cars, good quality cars. There's some junkers, but cheap, good quality cars that are fuel efficient. And they refused to take, or they tariffed our auto industry to the point where we couldn't sell cars around the world. and many, many other things. And that's why American companies left the shores of the United States looking for cheaper places to manufacture their goods so that they could make more money. And I'm all for that to a point. You know, if you decide you want to go build your cars in Japan or China or, you know, Germany or the UK or wherever, I'm okay with that. But I do believe that either the tariffs go away or they're reciprocal, meaning you charge me 10%, I'll charge you 10%. The trade deficit could be made up with grain. I'm okay with that. Or agricultural products. I'm perfectly fine with that. Because, to be honest with you, bring on the tariffs. Cripple the rest of the world. Us farmers, you know, farmers that are actually living in a depressed market since 1979, right? The farm crash of the 80s. You know, none of us that are farming today know what good farming was in the 50s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, when the golden age of agriculture was. All we know is the banker and the government. Unfortunately, the banker and the government. You know, my grandparents borrow anything, didn't need to. The money was there. They paid for their stuff and they got it and they made money. They raised their children. They bought their farms. Do you know that it is almost impossible for a farmer to actually go out and buy a piece of land and pay for it within a reasonable amount of time? If you're a non-farmer, we don't have piles of cash. We have piles of debt that are leveraged by the assets that we have, whether it's the farm or the equipment or even the crop that we're attempting to grow. And so there you go. But our grandparents and great-grandparents who came here from other countries or bought farms here or anywhere in this country were able to pay for them within a reasonable amount of time. They worked hard, they grew their crops, they raised their families, they sold their excess, they were able to expand their productions and buy land and stuff like that. Today, that's just not possible. It's just not possible. Yes, there's farmers buying land. There are young farmers buying land, but the banker and the government are involved in that purchase. So if the rest of the world feels the pain of paying more to live, then you're just stepping into our shoes. You know, 1977, my grandparents bought 1972, they bought a brand new John Deere 4320. 77, they bought a brand new 4430. 1979 rolls around, and that was when Jimmy Carter basically dropped a bomb on the U.S. farmers, and we haven't really ever since recovered. The wealth is in our land, and the banker wants it. So if you can't pay back, if you have a couple of bad years and you can't pay back your loan, they recall those loans and they take your land. And that's how it happened in the 80s. That's what's going to happen now. And it's just tough times. So tariff away, Donald. I'm okay with it. Because you know what? Fuel price is going to come down for us. Fuel price is going to come down. And it's okay. We need lower fuel prices because that is one of the major contributors to high input costs. Fuel, fertilizer. Fertilizer is driven on fuel. If you didn't know, natural gas takes natural gas to make nitrogen fertilizer. Potash is mined out of the ground. Phosphate's mined out of the ground. And it takes fuel for those processes. Desalination is basically what it is. They pump heated water down into these mines, dissolve the phosphate, the potash out of the ground, bring it up, pump it into desalination or evaporation ponds where they evaporate it off, and then you get the raw material. So anyways, whatever. I'm not even going to go into that process. I think the tariffs are a good thing, a good tool for negotiation. I think that all the countries that have taken advantage of American kindness are going to come to the table. They're going to say, well, all right, I guess 80 years of taking in money through tariffs against your leveraging your country for tariff money is going to come to an end. Let's come to an amicable agreement where we can either have equal tariff, whether it's 5%, 10%, 1%, no percent. No percent would be great, because that would cause the other countries to step up their game, because they're not getting, this money from our companies, and that's where it comes from. It's all passed on to the consumer, which is what some people are bitching and complaining about. Oh my God, the consumer prices are going to go up. Yes, they are. They are going to go up. They're going to go up. Like 1990, $80 for a bag of seed corn. $60 to $80 for a bag of seed corn. 2000, I think 2000, it hits like $110 a bag for seed corn. Today, at under $5 corn, $300, $320, $350 a bag for the same 80,000 kernel bag. Soybeans, I remember $12 a bushel, 60 pounds. It used to come in a bushel size, 60 pounds. Now they come in a unit, which a unit is 220,000 seeds, I think. 220,000 seeds, something like that. So it's not 60 pounds anymore. 60 pounds because you get variable seed sizes. Now they go by seed size and they count the seeds, and you get a unit of soybean seed. I remember $12 for a unit of soybean seed. I remember 16. I remember when it hit 20, the moaning and groaning. That was when a lot of farmers started saving their seed again. When it got to 20, when it got to 35, then it was like, holy shit. Then, of course, we get the, it's against the law to save your seed and all that wonderful stuff. So now here we are at $65 a unit for soybean seed and can't even get $10 a bushel. I remember in the 1970s, like 76, 77, something like there, you'd get $9, $10, $11 for your soybeans. Yep. $9, $10, $11 for your soybeans. Corn, $380 to $420. Yeah, of course our yields weren't nearly as high, but still, everything else has exploded. A tractor you could buy for $35,000, brand new tractor in the 70s. By the 90s, they were in that $60,000, $70,000 range for a decent size Sound Guard John Deere tractor. Magnums came out in the late 80s. Those were right around a little bit more money, I think, than the Sound Guard. John Deere was a little bit behind until the 7,000 came on, and then the 8,000 in 94, late 94, the 8,000 series came on. But, today, a 150 horsepower tractor costs you $1,000 a horsepower, whereas back in the 70s, it was a few $100s a horsepower. So things have changed. Things have changed in a major way, and our price increases for our crops have come in yield. They haven't come in the dollar amount. It's come in the yield. Well, that closes up that profit margin to about paper thin. And if you've had bad years, like I've had, and I've had 3 horrific years, 3 horrific years. Hopefully this coming year is better. If not, I'm out. I'm done. I don't know what I'll be doing, but I won't be farming much. I'll fold up, downsize to a couple of farms, and do something else. Me and my wife haven't figured it out yet, but we're getting close to what we will do. We've always got a plan. Plan 1 is raise William here on the farm. But if we don't get a good year this coming year, I'm sure there's a lot of farmers out there that are going to say the same thing. It's time to get out, So, but whatever. We'll just think positive, and we're going to have a good year. We're going to have a good year. But, and it'd be pretty hard to knock me out, but it's, I feel it. I'm feeling it pretty hard. So, yeah, tariffs, don't care. We've been dealing with this crap for years and years and years. For the last 4 years, farmers have been a leverage item. We take the hit. Farmers feel it first, just so you know. Farmers feel it first. And don't think Canada is innocent in this thing. Don't side with Canada when it comes to, oh, big bad United States. Big bad Canada has the highest tariffs of anybody on agricultural goods. I mean, 249% on dairy products. Fine, they don't want our dairy products. But they can't even build their own cars. Other companies build cars. Canada does not have a car. Canada does not refine their own fuel. Canada not only sends electricity to the United States, but out in British Columbia, electricity goes to Canada from the United States. Oh, wait a minute. It's about the same amount, which is amazing to me because, oh, poor Canada, poor Canada. Fuck, Canada's been taking advantage of us for years. And we send them $200 billion. Oh, wait, we also maintain the Alcan Highway. We do. Canada doesn't. We do. The United States. So on top of $200 billion a year to Canada, we take care of the Alcan Highway. All right. So great. All right. It's our highway. We got to connect to Alaska. But it is what it is. But they don't refine their own fuel. That oil has to come down here to go back up there, out to Seattle or wherever the hell, California, Washington, wherever these refineries are. Here in Linden, New Jersey, there's full of refineries. Philadelphia, full of refineries. Sunoco's down there. You've got all these refineries. Canada doesn't do it. They may do it on a very small scale, but they can't. They just don't. I don't know why. I mean, for national security, they have been relying on the United States forever. Well, shouldn't say forever, but a long time. So anyways, Mexico, another one. Oh yeah, we'll tariff the United States products coming to Mexico, and the Americas, the U.S. isn't tariffing them on products that are coming up by much. It's like 15% going down and 2% coming up. Why? John Deere moved down there. Ford moved down there. GM moved down there. Honda moved down there. Hyundai moved down there. Toyota moved down there. Also, they could sell cars back into the United States for 2% instead of selling cars to Mexico for 15%. Oh, yeah. And from Mexico, they can go to other countries for 2% or whatever, a much lower percentage rate than they are coming from here, the United States, to go there. Canada does build cars. Ford and Chevy used to have a lot of plants up there. I think they've closed a lot of them down. Sterling was there, and then they closed that down. But anyway, those are my thoughts on tariffs, and this is probably the last you're going to hear about it from me because my position is clear. Agriculture, farmers, ranchers, poultrymen, hog farmers, dairymen, you name it, crop farmers, we have been at the mercy of other countries since the late 1970s, early 80s. It hasn't changed. Under Donald Trump, he made good trade agreements. We're going to have a trade deficit of X number of billions of dollars. Okay, your population needs to eat. We will take up that trade deficit. You got to buy American grain. Joe Biden comes into office. China immediately says, we don't want your grain anymore. It would have been Joe Biden, Secretary of Agriculture's job to force China to buy the grain from the United States. But he didn't do it. And that is why we aren't making any money. Matter of fact, I should be able to buy new equipment right now. And I probably would have been. Because under Donald Trump, I bought used equipment, new to me equipment. I don't like to buy new equipment, but used new to me equipment, I bought when Donald Trump got elected. The day he got elected or the day after he got elected in 2016, I bought 2 tractors from England. They were paid off within a year and a half. Paid off within a year and a half. They're leveraged now because of poor weather, poor crops in the last 4 years of life. So anyways, if you like this video and you don't like what I have to say, it's okay. We don't have to agree to get along. I still love you. And, I'll be back on here with another new video on my alfalfa in a day or so. So have a nice day. And I hope you understand my position on the tariffs and how it's going to go. They're going to be short-lived. All these countries are going to show up down in Washington, and there's a lot of work that's going to be done, and they're going to get good trade deals where America is back in action without having to pay all these tariffs to everybody else around the world, because I've been around the world a little bit to the countries that tariff the United States the most: Japan, the Philippines, believe it or not. Unbelievable. I didn't take any video of Manila, but in the last 5 years, unbelievable the change. Makes New York City look like a third world country. I'm not joking. I was blown away. 10 years ago when I was in Manila, Philippines, I was like, what a shithole. Can't even breathe in here. But this time, high-rise, shiny new high-rise buildings. Streets are nice. There's actual interstates and connections that you can go right through Manila, whereas before, no way, man. But anyways, with that being said, y'all have a nice day, and the rest of the world, relax. Your governments have been taking advantage of us for far too long. It's time for you to thrive on your own and not have this American money because we can't afford it anymore. Have a nice day.